elevation.
Cool and Dre.
Big blunts, dope boys wanna smoke with me. Now we ride double M's through the whole city. Niggas talking down, but they always feel me. A 9-figure nigga, all I wanna talk is business. I seen a big mouth get a closed casket. Self-made, took over the whole racket. A kilo after kilo, see who moved the most. 200 for
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. Dropping in for another stock analysis video. We're going to be covering post earnings Q4 for S on my chest. There can only be one S1. I'm the sergeant in charge of it. Okay, we're going to talk about earnings results. We're going to talk about what I expected, what happened, what do I assess about the company, and so forth. All right. This is a small and mid cap type channel where we focus on high growth companies, all right, for exponential returns. So if you're new here, welcome. And if that's your strategy, I'm your man. All right. Very underground channel, very small, not much subscribers. All right. And tell you the truth, I'm kind of enjoying that right now. All right. I think it's just a matter of time before the market or the YouTube market will start realizing, maybe I know a thing or two here. All right. But before we begin, we'll get out some disclosures here. All right. I'm going to pull up my portfolio here. I do own shares in this equity. All right. 4,100 shares to be exact as of right now. $14.15 a share cost basis. I've deployed a little under 60 grand into this stock. $58,032.41 to be exact. If you notice my cost basis, look at the actual delta difference of how much capital I've deployed into this play as averse to all the other positions in the portfolio. So that should say something about my conviction. A lot of other YouTubers and a lot of other people will say buy this, buy that. They won't show what they're actually buying and what they're not buying, all right? Less transparency. And they tell everybody, once again, they tell everybody buy this, buy that. That's not what I do here. What I do here is I show y'all and tell y'all what I'm buying and why, okay? So smash the thumbs up button for me, all right? Appreciate that, all right? So blanked out position here, that's actually a future, that's actually a 10x play that I released on my Patreon, so you could check that out if you wanna discover what that is, all right? That's a 10x by the end of 2027, all right? And depending on the timing or whatever, I might reveal it and it'll already be a 10x right there, all right? So let's get down tax to brass, whatever, however you want to call it. Let's talk about the earnings and so forth, all right? So they reported earnings on March 12th. Slight miss on the top line revenue, very marginal, razor thin miss, 90.78K. Nevertheless, little bad tick mark on the records for the earnings portion, all right? Slight miss down there on the EPS gap actual. I'd expect nothing less because this company is more so focused on growth and retaining and taking market share at this time. All right. So what is the big thing that I looked for this earnings, and what happened? The big thing that I looked for this earnings is right here on the actual revenue financial statement. Surpassed $1 billion in revenue sales. All right. That's all I cared about for Q4 in this year's. They surpassed 1 billion and they did it. And why is this important? Well, something magical happens when a publicly traded company passes 1 billion in sales. There's proof of concept that makes the investment more investable through financial institutions, fund managers, etc. And this is why, because the proof of concept on penetrated world TAM or huge markets is possible. All right. People can't say this is niche anymore. All right. Or whatever. They can't, bears can't dispute this type of stuff on TAM runway. All right. So once this happens and it makes the actual investment more investable, all right, fund managers and institutions, they have a lot of capital to deploy and invest for clients and so forth. So this company now is considered an applicant for that investment capital because of this proof of concept, okay? And this is a generalized principle in the financial world. It's just not limited to the business model of this that you see in front of you, which is a cybersecurity, um, AI cloud-based cybersecurity firm on a tech SaaS business model, but all throughout, okay? So they did it. They did the billion in revenue. I'm happy and so forth. All right. What's another thing that I wanted to see with the earnings that was accomplished? The introduction and little transitionary thing with the new C or with the interim CFO and the new CFO. Okay, let me go up here. So recently, okay, they appointed this new CFO, Miss Sonali, and she is accredited to growing another business up to 2 billion in sales and expanding margins for profitability and so forth. All right, perfect setup for her experience. Excuse me, as Sentinel One is now in the billion mark, going to actually go to the next milestone of the double, which is 2 billion. And she's going to be there for that, working on the company's margins and building street credit with the street. All right. So that's important. The prior CFO, the street was not so, how do you say? The street was not so favored with the last CFO, hence probably, he transitioned out, but it is what it is. Some people will say that, he found better opportunity or whatever. I say that he probably got fired, guys. All right. So, um, I think that she's got that proven track record. She was part of Hewlett Packard Enterprises. She's divisional, including divisional CFO and head of corporate development, investor relations. So, with that investor relations side experience as well, she's going to speak the language that investors, the market speaks. She's going to be able to do that. Um, Unfortunately, I didn't hear her speak on this conference call, but next actual earnings call, we should be able to see her speak and introduce herself and so forth. So I'm looking forward to that next earnings for Q1 in fiscal year 2027. Remember, when you're looking at S's consensus estimates on Seeking Alpha, this is one of those weird companies that they do fiscal year reportings ahead. So this January of 2027, so they just got done reporting 2026 and they're going into 2027. So they're like a year ahead, if that makes sense. All right. So, anyway, fiscal year 2027 consensus estimates got them doing 20% due to these 35 top line analysts. And that's in line with company guide of 20%. Okay. So, I think that that's one big thing. Well, I know that's one big thing I was looking for. Next year's guidance, I want at least 20%. That's all I care about. They do the billion, a little bit of CFO transition stuff, and I get my 20% guidance. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the earnings call and how it went. All right. So assessment with the song and dance between the management and the actual analysts from whatever institutions. All right. Analysts in the financial institutions, I assess that they see cybersecurity in bear market right now, and they project bearishness in the macro cybersecurity market going into next year as well. All right. Hence, you see lower estimates at 17.76%. All right. I have a whole tailwind thesis. I don't agree with next year's or or actual calendar years 2027, 2027's assessment of their growth rate. I got them reaccelerating growth here, and I got a whole tailwind thesis about that, which you could check out on my Patreon. But I got growth going up, all right, and reaccelerating from there on out. And all of these numbers, I got this changing, all right, to way higher numbers, all right. So there's that to consider, all right. Their actual prompt security, all right. So a couple things, key takeaways. Competition, all right. They recently they recently took one of they recently took one of CrowdStrike's customers, which is Cloudflare. So, like within 24 hours of them reporting their actual Q4, they landed a Cloudflare contract, right? So, and how did they do that? Well, they did some. These are premature early signs of taking market share due to the addition of their actual of their actual product offering additions of prompt AI, so forth. All right. So they are working, the management is very product oriented, and the customer is always right type of oriented mentality. All right. And that's very important in this competitive landscape. All right. So I'd expect nothing less. They're landing contracts, and that trend will continue. I wouldn't be surprised if they do a slight beat on this 20%, to tell you the truth. Maybe now I'll admit it's not going to be dramatic. Maybe they do 21%. But all in all, my strategy of the thesis timeline of entering on a DCA mode is I got all year to buy this stock, all right? And I'm going to be dedicating my free cash flows to getting this up to six figures, all right? So six-figure position is what I want. I have a 10,000 share target, so I'm about 41% there. Okay, so there that is. All right. Um, Q1 and some seasonality. There's some balance out here that I'm actually, that the management has guided. Um, Now, used to be like you had a 40/60 on the seasonality on the front end. It's 40% on the back end. It's more like 60% for demand of the seasonality of the cybersecurity. But I think that management they're guiding more so that seasonality is balancing out more. All right. ARR and NNR 40% or rule of 40. All right. So this company is going to start focusing on rule of 40 metrics. And I'll admit, okay, this is probably going to take a few years for them to achieve now on a gap basis. So depending on the sentiment of the market, that rule of 40, if it's a highly crazy euphoric market, you know, institutional fund managers may award rule of 40 multiples based on a non-GAAP basis. But typically that's not the norm, all right? Sometimes that happens, most of the time it doesn't. All right? But they're starting to speak the language of the street, which I'm starting to get bullish about. Rule of 40, they're mentioning NRR, ARR, all these important metrics that the actual institutions run their calculations after. And if they meet all of these strict criterias of requirement to the street's got the power to start awarding multiples upon sales, projecting 10 to 15 years out, and front loading those sales to the current valuation. You could see multiple expansion, but several multi bags from these levels. Okay, let's look at the valuation. So price to sales is on a forward basis is 4.11 times. On a rule of 40 metric awarded from the street, you could see 25 times price to sales. All right. So 5x, all right. You could be looking at 5x the stock price if they hit those and achieve those milestones. All right. So we'll see there. That's a late game cherry on top, multiple expansion, skyrocket to the moon, if you will. But that's something I'll be keeping an eye on. All right. So all in all, I'm happy with Sentinel One's earnings. All right, I'm happy with what the company is doing, the leadership. The way I see it, investing into this actual company is I'm buying the company as it's being built and refined, and getting ready to take more market share. All right, in the future, and I do have them outperforming CrowdStrike dramatically, not only on a how do you say, a stock performance price action basis, but in the actual operational landscape. I think that they're going to start taking market share. Maybe not dramatically, but significant enough to where it's going to be noticeable by the market that this is the actual leader now. All right. If you're getting value out of this, check out my Patreon. All right, got a whole deep dive collection. If you're interested and you're an S shareholder, hey, this is for you. Go in there. You could type S in. Boom. I'm always releasing deep dives. We're going to do part 4 probably in a few weeks here. Or if you don't want to join the Patreon, you could buy the whole collection here for $100. You get access to all the videos. All right. So, and all the content. Those deep dives have price targets, pricing of intellectual property and technology, and so forth. All right, a lot of stuff on there for $100. All right. Um, Check out the Patreon for actual membership. All right, $14.99 a month. Yeah, kind of looks like $15 a month, but you click this button right up here, save 20% on an annualized basis. So, and monthly reoccurring, disbursements don't happen, or just or gift a family member a membership. All right. So check that out. You really can't beat it for the value. Get access to all my hot stock pick plays, learn how to be a better investor, get community, more direct access to me, and so forth, and grow with the community. All right, and outperform against everybody else. All right. So that's what I got for the video. I appreciate all of y'all for your support. It means the world to me. Comment down below if you have any questions. I'll be coming out with more content later. But with that being said, I love y'all and take it easy.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
One thing to question your mind, it's another to question your eyes and ears.